Hello everyone, this is Kavita Kiran, co-founder of Identity First. Welcome to our new episode of Leaders Speak series, where we bring you the most insightful conversations around cybersecurity. And today we have with us a special guest, Mr. Udit Jain, a leader in the financial sector with deep expertise in cybersecurity, risk management, and digital transformation. As a key player in the mutual fund industry, Udit has been at the forefront of tackling the evolving cyber threats and ensuring data security and regulatory compliance. Join us as we explore the challenges, trends, and strategies shaping cybersecurity in financial sector. Welcome, Udit, to our Leaders Speak series. It has been a great honor to have you today on our show. And to start with, since we are going into a very complex world of cybersecurity and the questions will be around it. So, to start with, I would just like to know, as an icebreaker, or I may say a lighter questions, how has been your journey so far and what keeps you going? And if you can just give a little bit about, details about that self, that'll be very great.
Thank you so much, Kavita, for having me on your show. I'm really honored and privileged to be a part of this discussion. So, to start with, my journey with cybersecurity initially started with more of IT and telecom, which has been the journey for most of the people of which are there in my age or stage. So the journey started way back in 1997 when I joined BSc Computers, which was something new to India at that time. And this happened as a part of my journey in the army. So I come with 23 years of experience in the army, and the experience has been in the domains of IT, telecom, and then migrated to cybersecurity because of the evolving world. So though 97 I got introduced, I formally started engaging into cybersecurity and other related fields when I got exposed to the offensive technologies which were coming in somewhere in the year 2008. So since then, I started developing that interest into this as a domain. I looked at that for some time while being in the army, from the offensive side also, which gave me a fair understanding on how things are moving, what is evolving. And that's how it gave me some kind of a base to move from IT and telecom into a slightly smaller and a niche kind of a domain, cybersecurity, which further got enhanced by means of the regular training which the organization imparted, by means of which I got to undergo my master's in cybersecurity, and also the assignments around it, wherein even I was a trainer into two of my assignments into cybersecurity, where I got a chance to even study, learn further, and impart training to officers of MTech, MSc, BTech, and others, which further enhanced my own skill set, because people who are into training or teaching, they would appreciate that once you start teaching anybody, you yourself have to study maybe 10 times more than what you're trying to impart, which further helped me hone my skills. And then the assignments came my way, wherein I could tenure the appointment of a CEO equivalent and a CISO, followed by again a head of IT and cybersecurity in my previous assignment, before I finally thought, let me taste what is on the other side of the platter and come to a corporate world. And that's how I transitioned into this role and landed as a Chief Information Security Officer in a BFSI sector. So that has been my journey so far. And what probably keeps me going is the kind of engaging in the challenging world is, and the new, every day you get to know that something new is happening. Whenever you feel that you have started knowing or you started interacting with people, you realize that you know so less about this domain or anything. So the more you read, the more you interact with people, the more you realize that you don't know anything, to be very frank. That is what I am facing personally. I do not know if that is the case with other leaders in the industry, but I feel myself that I'm still a student learning every day, and every day is being like giving me there are a lot of eureka moments that I face every day. Oh, this is also what is happening. So that's what probably keeps me going and makes me realize that there is so much to really do and learn into this domain. So that's what the journey.
That's very interesting, actually. So that comes to my next question. So how is it like the army was much more easier, or on the corporate side, how has been the comparison?
Oh.
Though you're on the bottom of both the sides, looks like, because
yes, so you can't really compare the two. Army was a very, very different culture in the way we used to work, and though I transitioned into cybersecurity as a role, however, in the army we don't really work on those silos. like we work in the corporate world. So in addition to the cybersecurity related tasks and duties that I was performing as a CISO or head IT and cybersecurity, there were other tasks also that we used to do. So it used to be an overall package where you used to get exposed to a lot of other things other than your own domain, which is advantageous in one way because you get to know what is happening in the other domains. But that also acts as a disadvantage because in case you have to go deep into that particular field, then probably it acts as a sort of a handicap. Plus, when you are in the organization like army, a lot of things are centralized in nature, wherein in case unless and until you are sitting in the helms of the affair, when the things are really, the decision makers are sitting and the things are getting implemented at that end, then you are actually getting exposed to everything as far as the technology and the cybersecurity is concerned. While when we are into a smaller domain or a smaller part, say in the corporate world, if somebody is sitting in a branch operation, what happens in the corporate office, it just trickles down and they're told to implement it rather than giving that privilege or that freedom to deploy whatever you want. However, in the corporate world, what I realized is an organization itself is a wholesome entity.
Right.
And if you are in a position like CISO, wherein your advices are heard and people understand that if you're making some sense, then you can make a lot of difference as far as this domain is concerned. So that has been a big stark difference into what I see from the professional front. Personal front is altogether a different ballgame, so probably we'll restrict it to another discussion sometime.
Definitely. We'll restrict to the professional front. So now, since, I just want to, now let's delve into the real questions actually. So my first question, Udit, would be more about the way the data is getting stored. So basically, what people are terming as data hoarding, so to speak. Actually, that's the term which people are talking about, where where financial institutions are known to collect more data than necessary. So, increasing the risk and the burdens basically for compliance. So, so I wanted to understand, do organizations need to go for a data diet, basically? And or should regulators push for stricter data minimization policies? What is your take on it?
So, in my view, the data that is getting collected is really not in excess to what is required for the organizations to work. With so many regulatory requirements and regulations already in place, the data minimization as far as the collection is concerned, I think it is pretty controlled. People are collecting only what is required for those basic things for the services to be provisioned. I personally feel the data retention and the deletion which should happen once the purpose has been served, that is one thing which probably the organizations need to work on. And yes, I would agree, the data diet is certainly important. You are consuming a lot, but if you don't work out, you are bound to bloat and put on weight, which increases the risk of, like in a physical world, a heart attack. Similar is the case. You can have any attack. So I agree to the part of data retention and deletion, which probably the regulators and the organizations are very conscious about it. With especially now the DPDP and the people who are into the global domain who are working across the world with GDPR and the rules. People are conscious of this. However, there is still, I guess, there is a scope of work defined and called out for the data protection officers and the risk officers and even the information security and IT team to identify what data is required, what is not required. What can be done away with in a fashion that it is irrecoverable. So yes, dieting is for sure required.
Definitely required. And there's a long way to go as such, right? There's a lot.
Absolutely. It's an everyday process, every day you're consuming. So if you don't work out, you're going to land up in the same state. So you have to have a healthy diet followed, and a proper hygiene needs to be maintained. People need to be cautious what they're consuming and how they are consuming. So those things, I think, will go a long way in making sure that the organizations and the data is safe and secure.
Great. So we look forward to more on that, actually. So now my next question again, Udit, will be more about the illusion of cybersecurity readiness. I call it like that, basically. So it's like many organizations feel secure because they meet compliance requirements. So that, we are comfortable, we have met it, and we are done, we have met the checklist. But compliance doesn't equal security. Correct me if I'm wrong. So have you seen instances where companies were compliant but still massively vulnerable? Or what is your take on it, if I may say so?
So if you look at probably the origin or the way things have got evolved and the people have started adapting to the requirements of the cybersecurity. First, there were tech firms which were deep into the technology, which realized that all the technology that is getting propagating in the world is prone to various kind of attacks. Hence, they were probably the early adapters to cybersecurity and were conscious of that fact that even without the regulatory compliances being in place or the laws of the land being in place, they were still conscious of this and were taking appropriate measures to some extent. It was only the business who probably took some time to realize that there is a lot at risk. So though everybody wanted to adapt technology, to automate, to have faster and efficient ways of working, probably in that rush, they missed out onto looking at the security aspects. And so did probably some of the organizations which were provisioning these kind of products to the organizations, because the focus of the business has been that the functionality should run. How it comes is somebody else's charter or baby. I'm giving you input, getting a particular output. That's how the organizations have been. And once probably the business realized, and then the regulatory bodies, they realized that there's a mad rush which is going on, people all rushing, running without looking at all the security protocols in place. That is the time these compliances were introduced, but from time to time, and they only have gone stringent as we have progressed further, because the regulators and the bodies have also grown with time. They have also learned from the various kind of issues, the incidents they have faced over a period of time. Plus, there has been a learning globally, so the new standards have evolved, from which the learnings have been picked up and which have been pushed down to these businesses. So once the businesses probably started adapting to these, the initial thought was, I should not be non-compliant. The focus used to be that I should be compliant to this, so that tomorrow, in case the regulator asks me, what have you done on point number 2.1, I should be able to say that, okay, I have done XYZ. And once he looks for an evidence, I should be able to showcase him something. So that has been probably the journey. Right. And some of the organizations probably still who are new or nascent into this field are still following this as a philosophy, that I should not get non-compliant, I should not have any kind of letters getting received or warnings getting received on this part. So let me have the tick boxes done up, so that I am safe and secure from that point, without realizing that there is much more in those points than just a tick box. Right. Which I feel. So just to give an example, a regulatory may say that to protect your networks and the applications, you need to have firewalls. A very, very basic thing to do. So buying a firewall, either as a hardware, as a material, or in a cloud environment, you may put up a firewall in place. But till such time, the rules are not configured well, the accesses are not controlled, the logs are not being read, it is not being flowed into a mechanism wherein they are getting correlated and the output is being given, then the firewall has got no meaning. You may have a tick box saying that, oh, I have a firewall in place because the regulatory body wanted you to have. Right. So yes, that compliance requirement is met. But the intent behind that, that is where I feel that people need to still look at the intent first. So rather than looking at only the tick boxes. So that's my take on it. So people, I've seen they have been evolving. I would not say if genuine efforts are not being made, but there are genuine worldly constraints also that we live in, right, wherein one may be facing a lot of issues in terms of the resources, which is the biggest crunch in this world, wherein they are not able to accomplish or even deploy what they wish to. So that's my take on this.
So, so still there's a long way. Again, I will go back to the same thing. There's a long way still.
True. Yeah. And especially for the smaller organizations who do not have, who have the wish to grow, who have the wish to automate, but do not have the wherewithal to support all these things. So I think, yes, there's a very long way to go.
The threat, now the external attackers Udit versus internal, negligence. So my question is, like, cybersecurity strategies focus on mostly, on external threats, right? Like that's the key focus. But insider threats and human errors remain, leading cause for breaches. Are we misplacing our priorities when it comes to risk mitigation?
So I'll not say that we are misplacing the risk associated to an internal or external threat, but I'll probably try and put it across in a way that that's how we are as humans. So once you are in your home, you trust your family members and the friends who are there in your home. There is very less mistrust we have. So we are always looking at a threat from outside that somebody should not break into our house or the thief should not get in. So we will put a lock outside. And the cautious is that somebody should not be able to infiltrate and do something wrong to me or my family. And we, by nature, we humans, we trust the family. So organizations are nothing but big families. But as all families, so there are always aberrations. Hence, the insider threats are live and it is happening. It may be knowingly, stroke unknowingly, but these things do happen. So the risk priorities are not wrong. We always feel that the employees of the organization are bound by code of conduct. There are other policies and procedures in place by means of which we ensure that they abide by everything. Right. We have tools and everything placed to make sure that there's nothing wrong which is happening. However, the focus still remains because there is an unknown enemy outside, and that too in a digital world, that the cyber world we are living in. It can be anywhere. It can be anywhere, sitting anywhere and doing anything to my network or my application. Right. And more so when we are getting exposed to more of this kind of a cloud environment. So the priorities are not misplaced, but yes, between the two, still I feel the external threat is still more than the internal threat. The focus has been more onto the external threat for the reasons I just narrated. Internal threat is picking up. So newer technologies and newer tools and newer procedures are being evolved to make sure that even if there is a notorious internal user who intentionally wants to do something wrong, or unintentional kind of a mistake which somebody makes, that can also be prevented. So those things are evolving, and bigger organizations certainly have those kind of protocols and things in place now. But for small organizations, goes without long way to go.
And what is the the error in terms of the lot of breaches also caused by the internal the phishing attacks and the employee negligence as such. So the numbers are increasing. So do you think that there should be equal kind of focus being put by by the company, not only in kind of preventing the external threats, but also internal threats which become like a trigger and help enable these guys, if you may say, enable the external guys to hack or to go ahead with do the breaches as such. So they become enabler in terms.
Yeah. So to answer to your question, I would not say that the equal importance is required or not required. However, I would like to attempt to answer this question of yours is how an external threat agent is able to reach out to my employee so that he becomes vulnerable, he or she becomes vulnerable, is more important. So if I still have maybe a 70 to 80% focus of mine, ensuring that there is nothing wrong which can land into my environment or my employee, I have already cut down to the threat of internal parties falling prey to anything wrong or becoming a party to that to quite an extent. Thereafter, certainly there is a focus on the internal threat which has to come in, which is already happening in terms of creating a lot of awareness and internal campaigns that organizations keep running, and also newer tools which are focusing into this kind of architecture where you don't trust anybody.
Right.
Everybody has to prove their or authenticate their identity before they get into a network or start using anything. So those things are evolving. But I still feel the more focus should continue on the external parties and maybe slightly less onto the internal, though all are equally important. Why we see cases moving up in the internal threat is because of lack of awareness. That's what I feel.
Right.
It's not the tool which fails. The tool would do what you tell it to do, unless and until the tool has not been configured properly.
Right.
Or the reports or the logs are not being read properly. That is the only way the tool can falter. Otherwise, the tool would do what it is supposed to do if it has been told what to do.
Right.
If there's a gap in somebody telling the tool what you're supposed to do, then certainly there is a risk that somebody carries. But beyond that, if the tool is working fine, it is only the procedures which have been defined which needs to be followed by everybody, wherein there is a biggest lacuna and the people are in too much of a rush these days. They're in a hurry. So rather than spending a few seconds to understand what a particular mail has been received or what they are expected to do, what they're supposed to do, they're in too much of a hurry. They just want to...
Maybe it's not a priority for them.
Yeah, it's not a priority. Nobody takes these kind of gyan as also a priority.
Yeah.
They feel it's all mundane mails and emailers that are being sent by the teams like information security or risk or anybody. It's taken as a mundane activity. Even if you're doing an awareness session, the kind of seriousness is catching up. But I guess people have to be more self-cautious
Right.
The car that we buy, the organizations can only put a seat belt into it. But till such time the passengers don't wear the seat belt, it is of no use. So one should be aware that, okay, if I'm driving a car and there is a risk of getting into an accident, the only thing that's going to save me is maybe the airbags and the belt. So
Right.
might as well wear a belt and make sure that the car has got airbags if you want to survive the attack. Otherwise, anything can happen. So something similar, what I feel is for our organization point of view.
It's a great point. Now, implementing zero trust, makes security stronger, but often, slows down employees, leading to productivity backlash. Right, that has been a common concern. With all the CISOs and the security leaders I speak to before, I've spoken as well. How can security leaders, enforce strict measures without making security feel like a health check?
So it's certainly security comes at a cost,
Right.
and cost not in terms of only financial, it is in terms of putting the checks and balances in place. So the moment you have a check and balance, it's going to lead to some delay for sure.
Right.
Because till such time there is no check, there's a free run, free go. So if it's a free run for an employee, it's a free run for anybody. The moment you start putting checks, there would be certain delay, which the employees need to understand, and which as a cybersecurity leader has to put across to people the reason why something is being done in our organization, the rationale, the logic behind it. That if there is an incoming mail or the attachment is getting scanned, it's for a reason. And though it may cause a delay of 30 seconds before the mail finally appears in your inbox, it is okay. 30 seconds in a 24-hour cycle, I think it is acceptable, unless and until it is a life and death kind of a situation.
Right.
And then yes, 30 seconds would make a difference. But in a routine, a BAU kind of activity, 30 seconds, I think, should be acceptable. And that is what we need to put across to the employees, make them aware that in case these things or this thing is not there, what can happen? And maybe try and relate it to the real world examples and the case studies can be discussed with them, which tells them that, okay, somebody who did not have these kind of protocols and measures in place, this is the kind of impact. And this impact is not only on the organization data. This impact has to be told to them that this all thing impacts you as an individual, your families, or anybody. If there is an identity theft, your identity goes out, somebody starts misusing and starts sending out messages, then it is you and your brand at stake, your family is at stake.
Right.
Anybody can do anything unless and until you know how to protect your own data. The same thing is applicable both to the organizational data as well as your personal life and the personal data. So once probably somebody has been able to drive home that point, that this thing is not only for your organizational security, this thing is as much relevant as for your personal life, and it should automatically become a part of your life, the way we lead our life and the way we
The lifestyle
follow certain
benefit,
things.
basically.
Yeah, it's more of a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So if you understand that there is a lifestyle change required, because if you do not do it, this is what can happen, then probably things are easier to run through and people also start accepting. Initially, there might still be a friction whenever you bring in new procedures, new tools, new protocol. There might be criticism, but that is okay. If it is for the greater good, then small inconveniences, I think, are acceptable.
Especially, Udit, especially the small size firms, like especially the startups, where, the key focus is more on the product or, on the business.
Correct.
And, so security is never their priority as such, right? Like, especially with so many fintechs coming into the space and, so many fintechs who are, startup and so many financial, in the startups coming up. And so, how do they balance as such? What is your perspective or take on it? Because, yeah, you rightly said that you have to, kind of make it as incorporate it as embrace the change actually and kind of get into it. But still, there is a lot of hindrance there, because when you talk to the CISOs, they are like, security never comes for them. It is the business as a priority. And, and maybe in some way they miss the race when it comes to cybersecurity. So can we, what is your take? How, what are the simple measures or the small steps they can take if they should, instead of, where they can parallelly work on a product as well as, look at the business at the same time, ensure that there is a certain amount of security that they're maintaining.
Sure. So I think what has to be or what should probably be done is these newer organizations which are getting into getting the product developed. So the focus is on obviously getting the product live at the earliest time frame.
Right.
But if the teams which are into designing and development, they start imbibing those security protocols and features from the word go, then automatically it gets embedded. You don't have to work hard at a later point in time than doing a patchwork to make sure that something is done.
So, Udit, now my next question, which is, about artificial intelligence, which is the talk of the town, I may say, or the industry. Actually, everybody, right from a kid to a senior person, is talking about artificial intelligence. So, artificial intelligence, I believe, as the industry is putting, as the world putting it, is going to transform, it's going to transform security as well. But attackers are using it too. Right. So, do you think AI is truly a game changer for defense, or will it lead to smarter, more automated cyber attacks that what we are ready for?
So AI is not a new term, and this is nothing new in this world. I think the AI first time it was used somewhere was in 1940. That was the first time this term actually got introduced, wherein the smart machines were being talked about. That was way back. And over a period of time, there have been times when it has suddenly caught fire and people have started embracing it in some form or the other. And again, the game changers have been somewhere in 1997 when the AI-based machine had beaten Gary Kasparov, who used to be the chess champion at that time, followed by something in 2016 when the AlphaGo, which was again an AI-based machine, which had beaten the Go champion, which is I think it is 10 times or 100 times more difficult game than chess because the number of probabilities of the moves are so many, which have been the game changers, and that is how AI has got limelight. And so also the use of AI that was envisaged way back in early 2000s was primarily to look at complex problems and other things, which over a period of time, the organizations who are into this field have realized that it is not only to solve complex analytical problems, it can also be used for a generic kind of a use. And that's how when you say Gen AI coming in, more generalist in nature, looking at the LLMs and everything has got introduced, which the organizations and the people have started adapting it very openly because they feel it makes their job and life easier. That's how it has been adapted. And this adaptation has happened all over. And the AI, as you would know, thrives on only data. The more data you provide, the more data sets it comes across, the more queries it consumes, the smarter it becomes. It keeps evolving. So the AI, in essence, has even now looking at more wider use in having AI-based machines which have got a very, very high EQ rather than looking at only IQ. So that's how AI has evolved. And as any technology, a disruptive technology, I should say, like AI comes in, there are always two sides of the coin. How a good person uses it or how a bad person uses it, which happens with every technology. You talk about fusion, fission, the nuclear technology which comes in, how it got adopted was both from the energy point of view as well as a bomb that was made out of it. So similarly, this is what is happening in the world. However, the only difference is it has become more uncontrolled.
Right.
It's working in an uncontrolled environment. For the other bigger things, there were still controls in place. And even the AI summit, which recently happened just 2-3 days back, in that also there has been no concrete decision that has been made to have some kind of a global law coming in. And that again has been left more open-ended for people who are creating these technologies to be more cautious, which leaves a Pandora's box open. Anybody can do anything with the AI.
Right.
And how one designs an AI tool, what data it feeds, what query it runs on top of it, is all left to the imagination of the person who's doing it. So even if you do not have the natural intelligence, you can always take help of the artificial intelligence to do something what you want to do. Okay. That's precisely what a lot of smaller players into this field who want to venture because of either thrill or money or any kind of appreciation they are looking at, they are adapting to these kind of AI-based tools also. Looking at maybe hacking as a service, started using it and exploiting it to their advantage. And this cat and mouse game between the attackers and defenders has been on for centuries together. This is not the first time where the attackers have the first advantage. So here also the people who are using AI for any kind of a nefarious or a notorious kind of a purpose and have got a purpose and intent of infiltrating into a network, getting into an application, stealing of a data, they are still way and miles ahead of people who are trying to protect it. Because you can have all protections in place, but the kind of attack surfaces we have and the kind of attack vectors we are facing today, you cannot cover the entire ground. It is just impossible. You have to prioritize it, have your higher priority assets getting secured more than something which is low priority, because you do not have infinite resources. If someone has got infinite resources, you can secure all the digital assets or anything that you have with all your might, but which is not practical in today's scenario. And hence I feel that yes, attackers are at an advantage today, and maybe that's going to continue in the times to come. AI has started enabling defense for sure, but there are limitations and to a limit to which the AI currently is getting used. There are many more use cases which will keep coming in with time, but the attackers, I think, will have an upper hand once we look at adaptation of AI is concerned.
That's a very interesting and a very informative take, actually. So yeah, we have to be more cautious going forward as well. Yeah. Now, Udit, you also spoke about, in one of your, pointers before that about the skill gap. So you mentioned that, there is still there's a huge challenge over there. So my next question is all about, how the industry, which is constantly evolving for sure, but it's also struggling with the talent shortage. Right. But exactly what is the real issue? Is because some say the real issue is the hiring bias or unrealistic job expectations. So do we lack skilled professionals, or companies are just not looking for a very perfect unicorn kind of candidate? So where exactly is the challenge?
It's a brilliant question.
Thank you.
Which I myself have been pondering about. So I think it is both way. The organizations are also looking for an ideal unicorn who can come in and do everything for you from end to end. And there is certainly a skill gap also which exists. So both the things are the statements that you made are correct. I will not say that one is correct. It is only the organizations which have grown to a scale and who can afford to have specialists coming in with only specialist skill sets are able to afford them and they were even able to get them on board. But organizations which are still small, still growing, who do not have those kind of resources, they want someone to come in and do everything for them.
Right.
Which is a sort of an unrealistic kind of expectation that you are looking for a Shaktiman and a mixture of a Spider-Man and a Superman and a Hulk also. Everything you want in one package and to do everything for you end to end and to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Right. Yes.
So that's a very, very unrealistic expectation. Some do put it, but to be very frank, from the HR perspective also, they also put a wish list. Wherein at the heart of the heart, they also know that they are not going to find a perfect match. So even if there is a 60-70% match in the skills they're looking at or the experience they're looking at, I think they are also pretty accommodative because they understand that finding a perfect match in the budgets they have and in the talent pool which is available outside is not going to be a perfect match. So if there is a trainable kind of a quality in which we feel those skill gaps can be merged or bridged as they go further, then probably HR has also been that way accommodative in getting people on board and letting them grow while they are in the organization. From the other point of view, the skill gap I feel is there and it exists. Maybe 10 to 15 years back, people who were into IT and telecom have started migrating to information security kind of roles. It's only maybe 2005, 6 or 8 onwards when the specialist training and the courses and information security as a team, when they got evolved, as a stream got evolved, people started getting into those domains directly. There have been a lot of cross domains also people coming in. So people from all streams, irrespective whether you come from a science background, you have IT background or not, it really is not the matter. People who have got an understanding of the subject and who feel they have the wish to learn, do something into this field have been jumping. A lot of people, even if they do not have that kind of skill set, are still jumping into this field because they feel that this field is hot.
Right, I was going to come to the second question. Yeah.
So they feel that this is going to continue. This is not a one-day job where it's going to get over tomorrow. It is going to continue in the times to come. So there is certainly a skill gap which is though getting bridged by me in terms of courses and the certifications which have been introduced by the organization. But I still feel that the course and the certification doesn't really qualify or doesn't add on to your skill set, because more of these they give you more of a conceptual understanding of things, a theoretical understanding of things. But the expectation from the organizations where somebody comes in is to have a hands-on knowledge and to be able to deliver. So somebody who's got a understanding and which gets enhanced by some technical training or workshops or otherwise,
Right.
which are able to put together two things and then deliver and deploy those things on ground. That is what is the desirable end state that the organizations are looking at. Wherein I feel there is still a gap and there is still a lot to be done from both the individual's point of view as well as the organization's point of view.
And there's also, I think, a need for a more robust kind of training curriculum, and right, because as you
Absolutely.
as you said that
Absolutely. Even a lot of people who are into as a faculty training, they also come with a lot of theoretical knowledge.
right,
At times, that practical knowledge which is required for an individual to gain and deliver is a missing piece. Is a
Right.
missing piece, because essentially that's how our educational system in India has been.
Yeah.
People who are into education or a faculty as a domain, they would generally follow that academic route.
Correct.
So you do your masters, you do your doctorate,
Right.
and then you get into hardcore teaching or imparting of education as a domain.
Right.
So though you might be able to impart all the technical concepts, but that practical piece which comes in only by gaining hands-on experience onto tools, applications, and see how things are running, that piece I find to be still missing in the system.
Now, the next cyber threats are evolving, Udit, right? And financial institutions are also always on a high alert. I mean, who knows better than you? So, from AI-driven fraud to supply chain risk and cloud security concerns, it's a lot to consider. In your view, in your view, what is emerging cybersecurity challenge should financial institutions be preparing for the most?
So the buzzword which has been into the finance industry for some time, I would say, is ransomware attacks,
Right.
which the organizations have been facing, and especially with now even the evolution of quantum computing and this quantum computing coming to life and having use cases built around it and made available to the bigger organizations at least. The concept of harvesting the encrypted data and decrypting at a later point in time is in place. So a lot of hackers, even if they are catching hold of the data which is encrypted, which may not be of direct use to them, they are hoarding that data, even selling that encrypted data at a much lesser cost to the people who are there ready to consume those, and hoping that once the quantum computing is in place, they'll be able to decrypt the data and get the data out. So that is what is typically what I feel the finance industry is struggling is with the data. Now this data can get hit by a ransomware, or there can be a data breach, or there can be a data exfiltration. But rest is all attack vectors. How it happens is anybody's guess, and each of them are equally important from an information security perspective. All the attack vectors that can come to our environment and take away anything or lead to a breach, they are all relevant. So one cannot say that this is more important, that is less important. However, the terms that you use, artificial intelligence, since people have started using artificial intelligence in their day-to-day work routine, the data is getting pulled out. And in case the people who are using these kind of applications are not cautious of what data is being fed, what queries are being fed, then there is certainly a risk that we carry. And the biggest risk, in addition to this, what we carry is a lot of transition of the organizational resources have happened onto the cloud infrastructure. So there are bigger cloud service providers and then there are smaller cloud service providers. There are people who are developer or the organization which are smaller in nature, which may be able to give you the functionality what an organization needs, but may not be really able to defend or protect from the infrastructure point of view or from the application point of view what is desired to ensure that the data of the investor, the consumers, or your employee data which resides on these applications is safe and secure. So I think it's more of a combination to disaster what we are looking forward to, because a lot of things are happening in this environment, and this is so dynamically changing and evolving every day that every day there's a new thing which is there introduced in the market, and before even you have taken hold of something what happened yesterday, there is something new standing in front of you. So there is a whole lot of challenges which are there, not only for BFSI as a sector. You talk about any sector in this world, anybody who's using a computer, internet, a LAN, a application, everybody is equally vulnerable. BFSI becomes a bigger target because of the nature of the job and the money involved into this sector. They are a bigger target, but so is health, which looks at the health data of the
Right.
individuals, also be the government websites. So the threat is very real, and probably it's a mix of these, and leaving to the ingenuity of the attacker. How is one capable of using their natural intelligence to build on top of the artificial one, and probably that's what the threat BFSI and other sectors face to.
Very relevant point. It's a again we go back to the lighter note after
Yeah.
after a very heavy dose of discussion. So cybersecurity is a field that keeps you on your toes, right? But when you're not dealing with threats and risk, how do you unwind? So what? Yeah.
So my definition of unwinding is spending time with my family, giving some time to myself, to maybe meditate, go for some sports, so that I can ease out of this
Right.
continuous thing nagging into your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and try and forget it and be away from your digital platforms and your mobile phones and
Switch off and
laptops
switch
for
on. So
yeah, to switch off,
right.
let the mind relax, come back to its normal state before it starts getting triggered with all those alerts and notifications again. So that's what I do to unwind out of this busy world.
That's a great way. I think if you just keep yourself away from the phones and the gadgets, yeah, that's a great way to unwind today, because we're so entwined to that we forget that there is a life beyond, without it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's a great, actually. Thank you so much, Udit. It was a pleasure talking to you, and it was so enlightening and informative as well. We look forward to more such interesting discussions in the future. And thank you so much once again for being to us show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavita. Thanks for giving me this opportunity for coming onto your show and interacting with you. And it has been a really nice discussion, and really looking forward to having many more such in the future as well. Thank you so much, and all the very best.
Thank you so much.